Hi, this is Katie, right? As I said, I'm going to be doing a little tutorial on the gouache watercolor paints. And I know that I really concentrated lately on the last four sessions of the watercolor paints. But, there is another watercolor, set of watercolors that are called gouache. And this gouache has been around for a long time. But here's one that I have. It's called Karen Diaz. Uh, I think that's how you spelled it. I'm not sure, but it's their gouache watercolors. And gouache has been around for a long time, but for some reason, artists just never really felt like um, it just never really took off. And just recently, I think a lot of people are finding out that you could do so many different kinds of looks with gouache that you're not really able to get with standard watercolors. So gouache basically has a lot more pigment than watercolors. And so they tend to be more intense in color. And another thing about gouache is that you could layer on top of each other. And with watercolors, they're more transparent. And so you could layer, but you're pretty limited as to how much you could do. But with the gouache, it almost acts like to me, it's a mix between a watercolor and acrylic paint. Um, so let me show you what some of the things that gouache does, and whether I think that owning a set of wash colors is a really good thing because it just kind of gives you a different way so you can work with different things. Um so let's look at this gouache, and I will show you a little bit of the difference between a gouache and a watercolor. So here's here's very watercolored flowers, and another one. Now you see that this one here kind of has, I guess, some watercolors, but then see how intense the color is. These are gouache on top. And something like that, I always use a gouache because these are a little bit more definitive paintings. Um, and it just shows up better in a gouache. And so I know I've been doing a lot of flowers. So I'll show you a difference between a watercolor. Here's a watercolor. This is a lovely card, right? It's very, very delicate and transparent. And I really love this. And then I'll show you the one I did with gouache, what the flowers look like. See that? How it's much more, the lines are more definitive. You cannot do a whole lot of wet on wet kind of techniques with this because the blending just is not quite as fluid as watercolors. So let's do a little bit of demo and I'll show you. So we probably will do leaves and flowers again. And like I say, the gouache that I use is I have this gouache set, and another one I like is my Holbein gouache set. And this one here is something that I buy tubes of paints like this, and then I just pour it into these pans and I make it kind of like I mix the kind of colors that I like. And so sometimes I use them out of here, but I'm always combining it with the things that I have in my tube set too. So let's get started. Let me see how I could do this to show you the difference between um, this color here is, let's see, this is opera pink, which is probably my favorite color because I always like this in very bright pink. And there's so we'll stick with some of the flower shades that work really well. So anytime I do a flowers, I kind of mix different color pinks. So it's not just one color pink. So here's some more pale pink. And then I have white and I have titanium white. No, yeah, that's right. And it's a little bit more of a beigeier color. And let's get some greens. Let me see. Where are the greens? Okay, let me see. There's a gouache moss green. And there is, let's put another color in here. This is more of a red. Let's just start out with those. So what does a gouache flower look like? So I'm going to use, again, you know, the four basic brushes I use are size 6, size 8, size 10, and size 2. I kind of always tend to stick with these sizes. So let's start with the size 8. And with the gouache, you will use with water as well. So let's start out with, and you would add the water to the paint. So let's start out with a flower that would be, I will bring the flower down. Flower. Another thing I wanted to tell you is with a gouache, do you notice how the ends look kind of dry? You could do a very dry, dry paint look with this too. You don't, it doesn't always have to be wet. Right now I have it wet, but you could also do a dry technique. So here's, let's say that I'm going to draw that flower and then I'm just going to let that dry. And then let's do another kind. So if you want to do something like a flat round flower, like a rose, you know, with a watercolor, with a regular watercolor, it's much more. So I guess with the gouache, I wouldn't really recommend that you get it so wet. And so I would stop right there. And let's do one that's, let's go ahead and I will mix this kind of a peachy color with a pink. And you could, you know, yes, you could mix colors. So let's say we'll make a flower that's got a center. And it would be 1, 2. See, so you're not really doing it with real thin paint to begin with, but you are really doing a definitive shape. So it does have a different feel than a watercolor. Here's another flower. So let's go ahead and do a couple of leaves. So the best way to do leaves with this is you just go ahead and draw the outline. Draw the outline. See how clear they come out? They're just very, the shapes are very definite. And let's see if we could do another, I don't have olive green in that one, so I have it in here, in this set. So I'll put a little olive right here. And then I may put in a little bit of navy. So let's go ahead and do some more leaves. See, because now these paints are pretty dry, so you're not going to really, it could have that little brushy effect to it, which I really like. So you could get a lot of different kinds of looks out of this. And if you want to add more accent to the leaves, then I would probably take this blue, and you can put the blue in here. Now you could make different shadows and things like that. And then if you want to, you could even add, remember, because these are, you could add layers to this as much as you want. So let's say that you might want to add white and buff on top. And if you wanted to do see that? And you could actually go ahead and start putting any color you want on top. And let's see. That pink flower is dry, so let's go ahead and see what we could do to there. And if you wanted to, you could go ahead and add little accents on this flower. And if you want to, you can add, let me see, maybe we'll add the blue in the center. See how thick it is? It comes out. It's very definitive. There you go. Now this is dry, so let's see what we could do here. We'll take the red. And then let's say we're going to add some red accent on the bottom. And see, so there really isn't that blending like that you do with others, with the watercolor. Everything is pretty definitely definite shapes. And then Let's say that I want to add some lead or some lines. And I think if you wanted to, you could probably add just a little bit of little stamens kind of popping up out of here. And then if you normally do this with a watercolor, you try to put a stem on it, it will bleed down to the stem, right? That red will come down to the stem. But with these paints, it does not. It just seems like you may have a little bleeding, but it's not, it pretty much the paint just stays where it is. So I think these paints are very pretty. I really love it because the colors are so intense. There you go. Now, this one right here, I made it really wet like I tried to do with watercolors. But you see that it's really hard to work with something like this with gouache because it puddles up, and then to me, the color doesn't look really that great. So, and then it shouldn't really be that wet. It just doesn't look that good when it's wet. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I was trying to create more of a watercolor effect, but I just don't really care for it. And I much rather do something like this compared to that. So on this one, I'm probably gonna have to get some pink and get some of this. I don't know how I could fix that one. It's pretty tough. I may just go ahead and opera red, and maybe I'll add a little bit of white to that to make it look more thinner. I don't know what to do here. So see, if I made it not so watery, it just looks better. There you go. Take one out of this other paint set. Let me see now how the yellows will look. And let me get some yellow from here and see how that'll work out. Sorry, I have real bad allergy and I'm just having kind of a rough time breathing today. So let me see, what can we do here? I think that if we do, wow, this is really pretty. See how bright this yellow is? You could never get this kind of brightness out of a watercolor. So let's do another one. And then let's do the leaves to this one. And because the paint is thicker, the line does not come out real fine like I do with the watercolor. And then now you can see as I'm doing it with a really more of a dry brush, you can see the edges being kind of frayed, and which I like that. It's not real wet so that the leaves turn on kind of a brushy effect. Can you see that? And just without using any of the other colors, you could, it looks like there's many different colors in there. So with the watercolors, there's just a lot of mixing and flowing of colors you could do, but with these, they're pretty much kind of set, you know, they're just flat paint. And so it just stays like that. And let's see, try using a little bit of black straight out of here. A little stamen there. And let's try a tree. Let's get this out of this color out of here. Then we'll put it right here. So let's go ahead and tree. I like that because it's not real wet. So let's let that dry just a little bit. And then right on top of that, you could actually go and get your deeper olive. And then you could go and put a tree right between there, right on top of everything. I love this dry brush effect. And let's try a little bit of brown. And let's put it right here. And let's put a little bit of black. Then you could go ahead and do a kind of a wet effect with this too. I'm just gonna mix this buff and green together, and you can go whoop, like that going across. It just kind of gives it a real brushy look, and I really like it. And then let's get some more white here. I'll show you what you could do with the white paint on top of that. White, white, white. Okay, this is a gouache white. And then I'm going to take a thin brush and I'm going to put a little bit of water, and then I'll show you what the white does. So you could go ahead and put the white in. Let's do some more. See how when you put this color right on top of the other, it just covers it? And you're not able to do something like this with a standard watercolor. So it's pretty enjoyable working with these. I really like it. And I'm going to put black. And then I'm just going to go. There you go. That's lovely. And with that yellow flower, if you wanted to, maybe you could just add a little bit of accents to that flower by, I don't know, you could do really kind of fun things like putting on little white polka dots or something. What would be good here? To separate out the leaves. Well, this doesn't really show up that well on white. I think you need a darker color for this white to show up. If it's too light, seeing it on this leaf, it'll work. But it doesn't work when the background is too light. So I'm just not gonna know what to do with that yellow. So I guess that flower just stay that way. And I think that if we wanted to, we could add maybe a little bit of a lime, kind of an apple green. And you could add a little bit of accent on the bottom like this. So, these with the gouache, you could get a little bit more whimsical with your flowers. They don't have to look. There you go. So that's how the gouache looks like. And so it's really a good idea to, when you get a gouache paint, make sure that you make your little color palette like I did right here. I do this with every paint that I have, the paint set that I have. See the water right there? And if you have that, you know exactly what to mix with each one of those colors to get different kinds of shading. So I hope that this gave you kind of an idea of what the difference is between watercolor and then gouache watercolor. They're both really neat. They both have their own personalities and characteristics, and I really enjoy using both of them. And so it just depends on what I'm doing. Okay, so next week I'm going to do another tutorial with the gouache, and I will show you how to make a card that's made from gouache paints. Okay, so thank you so much for watching.